Have you ever wondered how we take something really dense, like a complex theory or a research paper, and turn it into a clear, compelling story? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on our entire process. We're going from abstract text to the visual journey you're on right now. So let's get right into it.
You know what all really boils down to this one question. We're often handed these incredibly dense texts. And the real challenge isn't just to simplify them, it's to find that captivating story that's hiding inside. How do we build a narrative that actually sticks with you long after you're done watching?
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about decoding the source material. Then we'll share our actual blueprint for making things clear. We'll even do a little live workshop, taking an idea from text to screen. After that, we'll see if the method actually works, based on data. And finally, we'll get into the real art of transformation. Okay, so step one is always about facing the source material head-on. And honestly, the biggest hurdle is usually abstraction. The really important ideas, they're not just sitting there on the surface. They're buried deep inside the text.
A perfect example is something called an implicit theme. This isn't a headline you can just pull out. No, it's an invisible message, an unstated idea about human nature that we as creators have to dig up and make visible. We have to figure it out from all the hints in the story before we can even begin to explain it to you.
And that just adds another layer of difficulty. Some symbols are easy, right? A red rose pretty much always means love, but a lot of the time symbols are purely contextual. A broken clock in a story could just be a broken clock, or it could be a powerful symbol for a character who's completely stuck in the past. Our first job is figuring out which is which.
And this is where the challenge just explodes. You realize there's not just one right way to analyze something. You could focus on the work itself, or maybe what the author was trying to say, or how it connects to real life, or even how it makes the reader feel. Each one of those choices creates a totally different story. And that is where things can get, pretty overwhelming.
So, when you're faced with all that complexity, how do you even find a path forward? For us, it all comes down to a blueprint. We absolutely need a reliable structure to guide us out of that chaos of information and into a place of clarity.
And kind of surprisingly, our blueprint is inspired by an educational model called the flipped classroom. Now, the original model is for teaching, but we saw its core workflow and thought, wow, that is a simple, powerful, three-stage process for turning dense info into an active experience. It was the perfect analogy.
So here's how we've adapted it for what we do. The pre-class prep, that's our deep dive. That's all the reading, the researching, finding those core themes. The in-class activities part, that's what's happening right now. We're building this experience for you. And post-class, that's where you come in. It's your turn to reflect on these ideas and make them your own. All right, enough with the theory. Let's actually put this blueprint into practice. In this section, we're going to workshop a real piece of abstract text from one of our sources, and I'll show you exactly how we turn it into a clear, visual idea.
Okay, here's our raw material. Just a single sentence. It's descriptive, yeah? But what does it really mean? A thick, gray veil that swallowed the road. How do you turn an image like that into a concrete idea?
We use a really handy tool for this, called the TEA method. It's perfect for breaking down a quote. First, you state your thesis. That's your main point. Then you provide the evidence, which we just did with the quote. And finally, you give the analysis, which is where you connect the dots.
So let's apply step one. Here's our thesis. The fog isn't just weather. It's a symbol for the main character's moral confusion. It's a pretty bold claim, right? But it's clear and it's direct. That's our interpretation. And now for the analysis, where we tie it all together. The real power here is in that one word, swallowed. That's a violent, active word. It suggests the character doesn't just feel a little lost, they feel consumed by their indecision, like they literally can't see the right path forward. And just like that, a simple description of fog becomes this powerful symbol of an internal struggle. So, we've got this process for turning abstract text into clear ideas. But here's the million-dollar question. Does this structured approach actually create a more engaging experience for you? Let's take a look at the data. We found this great study on that flipped classroom model that actually measures this stuff. This table breaks down student engagement into different categories, but the key takeaway is over there in that right-hand column. The results were rated good straight across the board.
Let's just zero in on that final average score for a second. 3.84 out of a possible 4. That is an incredibly high level of engagement. It's some of the best proof you can get that giving people a clear, structured path through complex ideas, it doesn't just work, it's super effective.
And you know what I find absolutely fascinating? It's this breakdown. Look at emotional engagement. It scored a 3.98. That's the highest of them all. This tells us something so important. Clarity isn't just about thinking, it's about feeling. A story that's structured well doesn't just inform your brain, it gets you emotionally invested. So all of this brings us to our final and maybe most important idea. What we're really doing in this process, it isn't just explaining, it's a true act of transformation. We're actually creating something brand new.
There's this really powerful term for this process, Ali Wahana. It basically means the transformation of a work from one medium to another, like turning this dense text into the visuals you're seeing. And the core idea here is that this isn't just a simple copy-paste job. It is an act of interpretation, and even more importantly, recreation.
And that's exactly why an explainer like this one isn't meant to replace the original sources. I mean, we can never capture every single little nuance. Instead, what we're trying to do is create a doorway, a new experience that makes the big, important ideas from the source material accessible, engaging, and, well, clear.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If every time we share an idea, whether it's turning a book into an explainer or just telling a friend about something cool you learned, if every one of those acts is an act of creation, what does that mean for us? It suggests that how we choose to interpret and retell stories might be just as important as the stories themselves.